Hi, everyone. We are back. This time we are in Alberta, specifically in Calgary with this panel. So I'm going to pass it over to Morgan to kick off some introduction.
Great. My name's Morgan. I am a co-founder with my business partner, Mark Husted, and we co-founded BAMF. We are a small design studio specializing in packaging, beverages, restaurant, culture. We typically work with small business entrepreneurs that kind of understand the value that branding brings to their successes. So definitely more of a small, scrappy studio. And yeah, we just love consumables. We love eating and drinking. And so if anyone comes to us with food or beverage, we're usually all in.
I think we all are, yeah?
Yes, but we're being selective, like bring us beer and then we'll talk.
It's the prerequisite.
Yeah. Stephanie, what about you? Want to give us a little intro?
Yeah, I'm the co-founder and co-creative director at Daughter. We're a small-ish agency, still about 16 people. We do design and advertising. I really like the intersection between those two things and being able to take brand and then have it speak in the world. We work on a variety of stuff, a lot of civic building campaigns. Seems to be a bit of a sweet spot for us. So we have a new Calgary Cancer Center, Arts Commons, and then some of our other big foundations tends to be where the work is focused.
Nice. It's a fascinating space, the sort of crossover between design and advertising right now, right? Like all the agencies have heads of brands and director of brands. And then they have design studios within the agencies now too. So I imagine being a sort of small, medium-sized player in that space would be really exciting.
It's fun. It almost feels like there's too many, like the horizon's so wide. It's where do we stay focused and what can we really do a great job of? And that's always something.
Yeah. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm Chris McPhail. I'm the managing director and one of the partners here at Struts. So Struts a design, communications, and technology agency. So we work on brands, campaigns, and digital experiences. And really sort of where those three overlap or intersect is sort of our sweet spot. We're actually going into our 23rd year of business, which kind of comes as a surprise sometimes, thinking we've been around that long. But and we work with clients, a lot locally, but nationally as well as internationally. And again, similar to others, diverse across sectors. We work with not-for-profit groups, energy sector, healthcare, corporate communications, cultural institutions, and consumer brands. So kind of a wide variety, but all of them in common have just a need for branding and campaigns and digital. So that's sort of our jam.
Nice. Well, let's kick this conversation off just by sort of talking about what it's like to operate your businesses and to work as a designer in Calgary. What is unique to Calgary when we look at it on sort of a national scale?
I like what Chris had to say earlier. You go for it. You start.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I think, and also too, I should say I'm not a designer, but I think what's unique about our community here, I think we all share a really strong entrepreneurial spirit. I think Calgary as a city, even outside of our industry, has that common sort of thread throughout it. And I think we have a lot of really great talent here, and we do big things out of small groups. And I think the work that comes out of the agencies here, and even some of our smaller firms here, can go toe to toe with the big boys and girls around the world. So I think that's a bit of unique sort of thread throughout our city here.
Good. Morgan, Stephanie, what's it been like?
I mean, we saw the reason why we founded 4 years ago is because we saw a great opportunity to sort of make a difference in the design language of our city, which might have been somewhat neglected for a little while on a small scale. So yeah, we're just here trying to elevate and sort of make things more joyful, more colorful, less Western and rustic, and a little more modern. So I think that was kind of our goal. It's just we saw this huge opportunity to bring our personality and design language and beliefs into our community. We would have probably felt like small fish in a big pond in other major metropolitan cities. So we just kind of put roots down and stuck around.
Did Calgary feel like it had a very sort of prescribed visual identity in the region?
I don't know that it's super top of mind. Like I design, it's not, we don't live and breathe it here the same way. It feels more at the surface in some other cities. So I don't know if there's it was almost like a prescribed lack of language, or it's just not as considered usually. I don't know if that's your experience, Morgan.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, we started, one of our very first projects we started together as a studio was in 2017, and we were in the brewing space, and we just went to the shelves and everyone was talking about sort of local and regionality, but it was very Western heavy and very like just wheat. It was just wheat and hops and dark colors. And so we just thought, well, how can we do that? How can we do things differently? So we came up with like a very bright 88 Brewing Co. brand, and it was just such a shelf popper. So I think it was like kind of a standout project for us in terms of trying to push the needle a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that all sounds like there's lots of sort of opportunity brewing in the region. Stephanie, in our pre-call, you were talking a little bit about how there seems to be some sort of smaller shops, like a new wave of studios and agencies that's forming. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, for sure. I think, I think there's a bunch of us that were watching each other's work and like wholeheartedly rooting for our shared success. I think there is this sort of, our whole industry is in flux, and I don't know that anybody has a great answer for what this looks like in the next decade. But to watch, there's a bunch of small shops and bigger shops too that are really doing exciting work, which feels incredible. It's the beginnings of something. I think that if we do this right, like link arms and hustle, Calgary could have a reputation as a design community. I know we have the talent, and I've worked in bigger markets, so I feel like I'm in a position to say we have the talent to do it, but it's how do we almost brand our city as a design destination and bring that literacy to the forefront. That's probably the thing I'm personally the most passionate about right now.
Interesting. Let's talk about sectors a little bit. Are there, in Alberta, in Calgary specifically, are there sort of sectors that seem to dominate over others, where there's more work to go around from a particular business sector?
Energy.
Yeah. Lots of energy, but I think we've historically done a lot in that space. And looking back about 10 years ago, we were probably more heavily weighted towards energy sector work, corporate communication work, working with the producers and the associations. And then following the downturn in 2014, 2015, like we actually diversified a little bit more, but there's lots of activity happening. And what's exciting is actually seeing a lot of the companies are undertaking the energy transition towards net zero, and just seeing the shift in philosophy and approach. And there's lots of great stories to be told through ESG efforts, as well as just what these companies are doing from an innovation standpoint. And I think there's this reputation that it's like the silver-haired ivory tower oil and gas good old boys. But having worked closely with people in the sector for a number of years now, they're very, very progressive, entrepreneurial, innovative people who care about our environment and problem solving, energy demands and solutions as well. So, but yeah, I think so. All that to say, energy certainly is a big focus here, but there's lots of exciting and interesting work happening in there as well. And then of course, we have a considerable tech sector and startup sort of community as well. And so that's, I think, another area where we see opportunities to help some of these early groups establish their brand and their voice and their positioning and help them, with their businesses too. But as I mentioned, we work across a number of different sectors, and now they're all kind of equally weighted in terms of our portfolio.
I would say, just as a designer, and I started out in energy as well, but just the food scene has changed over the last 10-15 years phenomenally. Just much more sophisticated options and sort of brand languages that are coming out. We ended up with like a huge brewery boom, and we ended up with like more breweries per capita in Western Canada or something like that. It's just like you really can't throw a rock without hitting one. So those became really fantastic opportunities for us until the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay, well, you brought it up. So let's talk a little bit about, and has the pandemic affected the design communications industry in your area? Like, what kinds of changes have you seen on the other side? If we can safely say we're on the other side, I don't know, but we'll pretend. We'll take the optimistic route.
For sure. Well, yeah, it definitely shook things up. That's for sure. From our perspective, we actually found, and I think for a lot of groups, transitioning to, working remotely and dispersed went relatively smoothly. And I think we found that we were arguably even more sort of productive. We still found ways to connect virtually. And, we, rather than having sort of the office banter around the kitchen on Monday morning, we do our team huddles and just, catch up over the weekend. And we just kind of rolled with that. The more obvious things, I think it broke down geographical barriers when it comes to recruiting talent. So we actually have a couple team members based in Toronto. They're fully remote. We fly them in every once in a while for events and things like that. But I think it opened up opportunities to kind of think about our businesses a little bit differently. I think coming out of it, it's everything's now changed moving forward. And we've adopted a hybrid working model. So we do both in office and still remote, and haven't really missed a beat from that perspective.
Yeah. Morgan, Stephanie, what about for you? What did you notice shift?
It's funny, we try and see what trends are happening, right? Like, I think the best brands, they're a lightning rod for the spirit of the times, right? Like they sort of encapsulate that. So I think post-pandemic, I felt really, I don't know, like just a little apathetic, and it's hard to engage with things. So then we're having lots of conversations about what does that mean for brand? What does that mean for design language?
Yeah.
And I think something that is so top of mind for me right now is, like, no one wants to be told to go make the most of it. It's like, if you tell me to go carpe diem, like smack you in the face, like, because I think we're still in recovery mode. Like it was, and it just seems like it's never ending. Like Collins Dictionary word of the year is permacrisis, right? Like we just have not, it's just, what's the next thing? So in terms of design, I feel like everyone just wants to be held, like I just want somebody to tell me it's going to be okay, and to make it sort of soft and comforting. And so we're having lots of conversations about how does that show up in brand, and how do we offer what people need right now? And how do we do that through our clients? So I mean, that's a bit of an esoteric answer, but that's sort of where my head is at now, is the role of brand and what can it do for people that they need, which feels like I just want some comfort and safety.
Well, Morgan, that makes me think a little bit about like the position, the work that you've been doing, and this sort of like this visual language. We can do more. We can be bright. We can be colorful. We can change up what we're used to seeing.
Dopamine brands, like dopamine dressing to dopamine brands. Like we just want to be enveloped in soft colors that just take over your dopamine. But I guess the biggest thing is that for us is that we just had to quickly switch from service to product based clients and branding. So like, everything that was once a tap room needed to go into cans. And what does that can experience feel like? Moving everything into packaging, e-commerce, and making sure that experience felt streamlined and cohesive. Those were kind of top of mind focuses for us. So it's not necessarily as high level as Stephanie was saying, where I just needed to be felt held. But it was just like, can I hold this brand in my hand at my home was kind of the essential focus for us. And we did have we had remote times during the pandemic, but I think we're committing for now, we're going to commit to our core team being in Calgary just because we want to bolster the community some more. That would be sort of a priority for us going forward when we talk about adding team members. Might be short-sighted, but I'm not sure.
I mean, let's talk about bolstering the community. So like, we talked a little bit about how there's so much talent there, how there's so much interesting sort of work happening from smaller shops, how such great sort of internationally recognized work is coming out of small group efforts. How does that community rally together? Like what does support from one agency to another look like in Calgary?
No.
No.
But I think it really is the opportunity, right? And from our perspective, we've been looking at more like where are those opportunities to collaborate and actually, whether it's like co-pitching something or we have our in-house technology team where we work with some other groups that don't have that, but they have clients that they're doing great work in their branding and messaging. But then we can bolt in and support, and there's no sort of ego in it, right? Where I think that's one of the things we all have a friendly competitive nature, of course, but I think the opportunity here is taking a look at where each of us are strong and where sometimes we can be greater than the sum of our parts in when we collaborate, and that could present some unique things. And then the other, I think, is just what we were talking about earlier before we started recording, just opportunities just to get together and just chat. Like, what are we seeing? What are we hearing? And just sharing knowledge and keeping a pulse of each other and helping each other out, because we can all share in the prosperity together.
Well, and I think that's an interesting piece of it too. I mean, when Stephanie talks about sort of an old guard and a new guard, the idea of that sort of scarcity mindset, Chris, it sounds like you're saying that some of that scarcity mindset is going away, like the sort of transparentness and willingness to share information and knowledge and wisdom is shifting. Does that feel?
Yes and no. I think, and I'll just kind of speak from my own perspective. I think I've historically had a bit of a scarcity mindset coming, before my agency world. I was, a freelancer and just kind of worked on my own. So it was really like make hay when the sun shines and, capitalize on all the opportunities. But I think, there's a lot of work to be had, lots of opportunities to be had. There's a big pie, and I think we can all share in it. And I think by, building each other up and supporting each other, we can all enjoy more of it together. But at the end of the day, also produce greater work that has more impacts as well. And that really, at the end of the day, I think is why we're all in it. I don't think we're in it to be making money. Frankly, it's our passion for design and brand and creating things that make the world a better place.
Yeah. Do either of you have a different perspective, Morgan, Stephanie, or does that all sort of resonate with you, mirror your experience too?
I think making the pie bigger won't happen in like Calgary, I think needs to be seen as like that it has a robust and thriving design and creative community. It doesn't have that reputation now. If we work together to create that reputation for the city, then I think we start to, you know, clients to the east and west and to the south will start to look and say, oh, okay, hey, this is a viable option. It's, if we work together, we can make the pie bigger. Like I don't, you know, I have amazing designers that work here. I love them. I want them to have beautiful, robust careers. I'm like, maybe you're going to be sick of me, of this place, and you're going to need to go work for you know, Morgan or Chris and spend some time there and learn some things. Like I think, you know, habit is the enemy of creativity. I think it's good for creatives to work at different places, to learn new things, and to have, like, we need other studios doing great work to raise that bar. I think it's burgeoning, it's a baby,
Yeah.
but we can, if we share a vision, we can do that.
Yeah, I
Um,
fully agree.
Stephanie, you brought up talent too. So, you know, talent acquisition and retention is such a big thing in this moment in time, I think, across the country. What has the experience been like for all of you in sort of hiring talent? You keep saying there's so much of it there. Is that mostly freelance talent who wants to work solo and get hired on a contract basis? Or are there folks who want to come in and work full time for your agencies?
It's incredibly important to me that everybody, like we're flexible, but it's like the majority of your time has to be in office. I just, like, in order to generate great creative, I think you have to share physical space. And have those ideas and those little things that pop up. I think everybody wants the same things, right? Like, we want to feel challenged in the right ways. We want to feel like the workplace is safe for us. We've spent so much time on culture and emotional health and communication and all of those things. And I think that's, if people feel like they're emotionally healthy and doing work they like, they will tend to stay where they're at. But creating that culture and creating those circumstances, I don't think is super easy or intuitive for me.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I know for us, like, you know, even before the pandemic, but certainly through, like, you know, adopting more of a people first culture. We're all human beings. We got to take care of each other first and foremost. We all have things happening in our life that bleed over into our professional life. That's just the reality of it. And so, you know, for us, what that means is, you know, maintaining, you know, a tight knit sort of family culture here, where we look after each other, and we be flexible, and, you know, understand that we still need to get work done at the end of the day, but we're not just machines cranking things out. Like, and you can't just turn on the creativity tap and then turn it off at the end of the day. It's very fluid. And so yeah, I definitely resonate with what Stephanie's saying.
Yeah. And does it feel like, I mean, there's design students graduating out of Calgary, right? There are programs there. And then Edmonton, I assume, moves a few design grads into Calgary each year as well. Do those folks stick around? Like, does it feel like the Talon Pool is growing?
We have we're hiring 2 grads from ACAD. They're both amazing. You know, incredible. So I hope so. I mean, that's the first.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, 4 of our designers are from the school here. So I think if they have jobs, they will.
Yeah.
My business partner and I are from the school, and we made our first hire out of the school. So yeah.
And we hire a number of people from there as well. And my 2 partners come from there too. And you know, I was also just going to add and kind of piggyback off something that Morgan had said prior to when we were chatting, just around, I think the other thing that keeps people in this city is that our city has evolved so much over the last 10, 15 years. And, it's become certainly more arts and culture focused, metropolitan. We're, an hour from the mountains. We have beautiful summers. Like all of the sort of lifestyle things are also part and parcel of that package. So I think, inevitably you're going to see some people move to different markets. And again, I think, sometimes there's that, ostensibly there's the bigger opportunities to move to, Toronto to work on some of the big brands and some of the big agencies. And I think there's always going to be a little bit of that. But, from our experience and the people that have worked here and we've seen, circulate through the shops here, they tend to stay. So.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And I mean, it's all interconnected, right? So, the more beautiful food and beverage work that Morgan does, the more young people want to stay and have access to those things, the more the design community gets tight knit, the more interesting projects that are coming out. Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. We're already almost through our time. Time flies. And these are such fascinating conversations. I want to wrap this up with just a little bit of sort of advice, I think, for folks watching. So maybe a little bit of advice for folks looking to start a business of their own. So maybe they've been working somewhere else for a while and they're ready to make that leap. Maybe they've been a freelancer and they're interested in formalizing that business. For folks watching who might be interested in doing that in your region specifically, is there any advice you'd give? Chris is like, yeah, lots. Would you like me to write a book?
Definitely. Like, I think, the big things, find a mentor or peer mentors that have been through it so that you can, draw from their experiences and have someone to help. But I think also, I think we tend to get into, these businesses where we have a skill and a passion to create something, an output, but then there's the business side of it, which is very, very different. And it's not very sexy. It's the grind. And
spreadsheets and emails.
Exactly. Well, and I think having, a good business plan and, brushing up and learning about, financials, cash flow, and really at the end of the day, like keeping an eye on staying on top of billables and having a little bit of that financial literacy piece goes a long way too. But biggest thing I think, and certainly for me, I've had some really great mentors and peer mentorship groups throughout the years that have been a big help for me.
Yeah.
Morgan?
Stephanie?
I want to hear from Morgan first.
Gosh, I have lots of what not to do's. So I think like what we're working on right now is like, as an entrepreneur, you start it because you're good at what you do and you love it. But you have to understand that like eventually it's something that you kind of have to step away from. You're not going to hammer every nail and run a really successful business. So sort of understanding that that's going to change, or if you want that to change. So just kind of understanding that might be a transition that you're going to go through. I think we started with a low overhead, a good accountant, and we always track our hours. And those are like all those metrics behind what's coming in and out was really helpful for us to be able to take risks and just take on projects that were riskier, we weren't tied down to a huge client right away, and kind of let us get our bearings before embarking on sort of growth. So those are my learnings.
I don't think I've ever heard the saying, you can't hammer every nail. And I think it's like maybe the truest business saying I've heard yet. You can't.
I'm tired of it. I'm not hammering every nail anymore. That's it. Done. We're done.
I think that's such sound advice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got asked this question recently, like, is everyone cut out for entrepreneurship? And I don't think that not everybody is. I think more people are than think they are. And really I think the only thing, you don't even need to be super smart or talented. You just have to be very resilient. Because you're going to fail 5,000 times at so many different things, suffer so much ambiguity, and every challenge is novel, right? When you're running your own business, nobody has run a business like yours at this moment in time. It's all up for grabs. That said, I think if you can just stick it out, you will get way farther than you think you will. There's this saying, which you can accomplish less than you think you can in a year, but more than you think you can in a decade. And I think that's held true, where like 1 year you're like, oh God, what did I even accomplish? But you look back over 10 and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe everything that changed. And I think that you just have to stick around to see your 10.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's that whole no career makes sense until it's in the rearview mirror thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you to the three of you for telling us a little bit about what it's like to practice design and run a business in Calgary, which I think I knew Calgary was pretty entrepreneurial, but I am leaving with a much deeper appreciation for that than I came into this call. So thank
Hard
you.
E.
Yeah. Yeah. Capital E.
Looking forward to seeing the rest of the regions.
Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you to the three of you for sharing so much wisdom. Sorry, Chris, I cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you very much for this. This has been great. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I so appreciate you taking the time for sharing your spaces with us, for sharing your wisdom with us, and just shedding some light on your region. I think it's been so fascinating to be able to see the differences and similarities as we move across the country. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.